We're on the edge of 2016, a year that could be very important for all of humanity, certainly important for us here at SkyWatch TV. Welcome, I'm Derek Gilbert. As we approach the holidays, our look ahead at the year ahead. And joining me in studio, SkyWatch TV's CEO Tom Horn, and my best friend, my wife, Sharon K. Gilbert.
Hi, sweetie.
Hey, good to be back again.
Well, the year ahead.
You should call him sweetie.
Sweetie, good to be back again, sweetie.
That keeps me in a good mood. We'll talk a bit about some of the plans, things that we've got planned for SkyWatch TV, but let's look first briefly at what we think might be happening in the world in 2016. You wrote a book, Apollyon Rising, which were then updated to Zenith 2016, based on the writings of some Christian preachers, but also some extra biblical sources, looking ahead at these years, the period of time that we're in right now, as being significant. What were they saying, and why should we pay attention?
Yeah, and it's interesting. I wrote the book first called Apollyon Rising, 2012, wrote that in 2009. And what mostly motivated me, partly, 10% maybe, was the whole New Age movement freaking out about what they thought was going to be the end of the world. And people go out there to YouTube and they'll find programs I did in 2009, 2010, right, which, after having really studied what the Chilambalam, what the Jaguar Shaman, the writings of the elders that were 500 and some years old that came out of Mayan society were translated into English. I was looking into this at the university level because I really wanted to know, honestly, what did they say? What was it that they believed? And how was this connected to the year 2012? And I came to conclude that what the Maya were saying about the year 2012 was not that that's when the world was going to end. What they had to say was actually more interesting than that. They were saying it was going to be the end of an age and the rollover into a new golden age of humanity. And then they said some very interesting things about it. Some of it was cosmological, like they're talking about the star systems, and Orion is going to align with Pleiades in a certain kind of a way, and they're talking about that kind of stuff, right? But they were also saying, for instance, that two very powerful men would emerge on Earth following the year 2012. And for the life of me, when I'm studying this, it sounds very much like they're talking about the false prophet and the Antichrist, right? And they also talk about the underworld god, Bolan Yakteku, who in the underworld is guarding the bones of the giants. But after 2012, those bones will be reanimated and they will reemerge to the surface of the earth. So they were saying some stuff that seemed torn out of the pages of Christian apocalyptic literature, right? And the end of the world, the return of the, not the end of the world, the end of an age, the return of the giants, these two powerful men that are going to emerge. So I started looking at it through the prism of more Christian eschatological belief systems. And that's when I learned that the Jaguar Shaman that the elders, the Mayan elders, were quoting was a convert to Christianity as a result of the Mexican invasion, and he was mixing his Mayan beliefs with Christian end-time belief systems. He was putting the two of them together and trying to interpret what the Maya believed based on what he was learning from the missionaries. And so that made it even more interesting, right? But then what happened was, so I'm out there saying, no, they're not saying this is going to be the end of the world. They're saying this is going to be a new golden age. But then that reminded me of the prophecies that are on the Great Seal of the United States of America, where the Kume Sybil, who was the most powerful of the prophetesses of Apollo, had also prophesied that a time would come, the end of the age. And the more I looked at the Great Seal, the more I recognized that the 13 steps, it all seemed to align with what the Maya were talking about. And you could even look at the Great Seal, and I did in the book, Apollyon Rising. You could actually translate the Great Seal as saying that something was going to happen between the years 2012 and 2016. So we're out there talking about this. Well, all of a sudden, a guy that works at, it was either Yale University or one of them, he emails me through Chris Putnam, because he knew we were also at that time, now we're working on the prophecy of the popes. And we were saying, well, if 2012 gives birth to something, we also, the prophecy of the popes going to come to an end. We predicted that Pope Francis would resign in 2012, which we learned later that officially Benedict, that he did. Pope Francis is the last pope on that list. So that added kind of another little thing over here, right? Then we get contacted by a university, and they're saying, did you know that literally dozens of turn-of-the-century preachers, including Jonathan Edwards, believed that the Antichrist would appear on Earth between the years 2012 and 2016?
Ooh.
So I'm thinking, what? And so we started chronicling that. We wound up with 20-some different magazines that were all printed by reformers in 200 years ago or so, in which they were saying the Antichrist is going to appear between 2012 and 2016, tons of them. So I thought, what's going on? You've got the Maya. And then we started finding the Cherokee rattlesnake prophecies. They said the same thing. Orion's going to align, with the certain star clusters and the rattlesnake and their whole thing about, these giant, basically sounds like they're talking about Quetzalcoatl.
Yes.
The same thing the Maya, the Aztec, Kukulkan, right? Anyway, it just got very interesting, and to kind of jump forward and not spend the whole program repeating all of that information, we found a couple of really key documents, the Zohar being one of them. And that came to me through an email that I had sent out to a bunch of Bible scholars all over the world, in which I started adding up all these different ancient cultures. Unbiblical, non-biblical cultures like the Aztecs and whatever, and then biblical writers like Jonathan Edwards and others. Why were they focused on this time frame? Why did so many cultures believe 2012 to 2016 going to represent the end of the world or the coming of Antichrist or whatever? I get this email from J.R. Church, who have, of course, since gone to be on, to be with the Lord. He said, Tom, did you know that in the Zohar? And for people that don't know what that is, that was written like 700 years ago in medieval Aramaic. It's one of the most important books of Jewish Kabbalah. All the Orthodox Jewish rabbis pay attention to it. That in there, they said the Messiah would privately arrive on earth in the year 5773, which in our Gregorian calendar was 2012 to 2013.
Yeah.
He'll make himself known to the rabbis, and sometime after that he'll begin making himself known to the peoples of the world, right? And so he walks me through the Zohar. It's in the Ve'era section of the Zohar in an area called Signs Heralding Meshach, where it talks about that. They said, though, that about the time he makes himself manifest, Rome will be destroyed. Well, then this brought me back to the prophecy of the popes, because the prophecy of the pope says Rome will be destroyed. Fatima describes the bishop in white walking among, a city that's been destroyed and all these dead bodies everywhere. Well, when the final pope is elected, Pope Francis, first thing he does is go to Fatima, and he blesses the statuette of Mary. There, he's a believer in the prophecy, right? So anyway, bits and pieces everywhere, all coming together, pointing to this period of time. Well,
and
Orthodox Jews in Israel over the last month have been saying, the Messiah is here, he's getting ready to make himself known to the people of the world. That's right out of the Zohar. So early in 2016, we're actually going to spend a couple of programs dissecting these belief systems and saying, we're going to find out this year, were they right or were they not? Meanwhile, in America, we're heading towards a national election unlike anything in our history.
Oh, yeah.
And geopolitical confluence of events in the Middle East that's leading to perhaps another showdown with Russia.
Well, in the ISIS video that was just published, where they're saying they're going to go into Rome, and they're going to take down the Vatican.
And this is where we're seeing prophecies coming from the Islamic world, from the Hadiths, projecting a cataclysmic or climactic final battle in northern Syria, which is in the area right now where the struggle is taking place, not far from Aleppo, which the Syrian government is fighting along with Russian and Iranian forces to try to take back from rebel groups that the United States has been supporting with Turkey and other NATO allies. We're fighting a proxy war in that very area that the Islamic State and other radical Sunni Mahdists believe that the Mahdi will appear. It believes that their battle is that's going to propel them to establish a global caliphate.
Right. Well, in this, speaking of 2016 and a U.S. national election, the GOP's final debate was hosted this last week, and that seemed to be the primary thing that they were focused on, what's happening in the Middle East. One of the candidates even mentioned the apocalyptic vision, so they too are kind of thinking of this in terms of if they're not believers in prophecy, they at least understand that that's where ISIS is coming from. The Pope is saying things that makes me believe that he sees himself playing a role in all of this. He has said, I'm willing to be assassinated if that's God's will.
Yes.
He will not let his security team put a bulletproof vest on him. They started the year of mercy this year and the year of Jubilee. They're expecting something like between right now and the first quarter of 2016, they're expecting something like 25 million Roman Catholic faithful to be in St. Peter's Square. And even their security there are saying, we are not ready. They've got construction projects all over the place there. So I anticipate there could be some literal, earth-shaking things that are going to happen.
And we'll clarify here for the benefit of viewers that the only prophecies that we take as guaranteed to be fulfilled are the ones in the Bible.
Amen.
But it's important to know what these other people believe their prophecies are teaching them, because what a person believes dictates how they live. And so we can draw some conclusions about what groups like the Islamic State might do based on what prophecies they believe in.
Right.
We're also seeing some activity, concrete activity in Israel to build the third temple.
Right.
This past year, we saw plans released, architectural drawings for a third temple. We're finding out now that behind the scenes and very quietly, the Netanyahu administration and supporters of it are overtly and covertly supporting this initiative, which of course is problematic geopolitically, because to build the third temple, you have to move the Al-Aqsa Mosque out of the way or destroy it, which would cause an uproar. That's why when they took the Temple Mount in 1967, after the 1967 war, the first thing that Moshe Dayan, the leader of the Israeli military, did was take down the Israeli flag from over the Al-Aqsa Mosque. But there appears to be a movement in Israel that the time is now to rebuild that temple. Now, as Christians, we understand we don't need a temple. But we see in prophecy that the temple will be there at some point. And so we're just seeing this as another signpost as we move closer toward what appears to be the culmination of history.
Right, because ultimately the temple will be desecrated by Antichrist.
Exactly.
And now with the Orthodox Jews, and these are Israel's top rabbis. These are not just Johnny-come-latelys. These are the ones that they pay attention to.
Very respected.
Saying the Messiah is here. They're even telling the young men that are studying in rabbinical school there not to leave Israel, not to leave Jerusalem, because the Messiah could appear at any moment. They're actually creating a special Torah that's going to be presented to the Messiah. They announced that this week. So they're talking as if they think they know something we don't know. Now, as believers in Jesus Christ as the Messiah, and like some Messianic Jews do, what we think is that when they think they have their Messiah, they're going to be talking about Antichrist, right? The man of sin. As far as building the third temple, there are so many ways in which that could practically happen overnight. One, that whole area sits atop a large earthquake fault. There have been major earthquakes there in the past. There could be a catastrophic earthquake that would wipe out the Temple Mount, and then you'd have this this universal cry through the United Nations or whatever for everybody to come together. And oh, by the way, as we're rebuilding the Temple Mount, let's build something for the Jews, or let's build a universal center. The other thing could be war. A war between Hamas and Israel or whatever could break out, the Palestinians, and oops, somebody just blew up the Temple Mount with some big missile of some kind, and now we're going to rebuild it. So the Antichrist appears. He seems to be legitimate. He's a man. The rabbis come forward and say this is the Messiah, and he brokers some deal, right, between the Muslims and the Jews to build a universal center for the religions of the world, and there's a movement toward that already anyway.
Yeah, in fact, that's been part of the UN's goal since 1947. Well, part of the original partition plan was to set up an international administration with the Vatican as part of it. Right, and the Vatican, the Pope just yesterday saying Christians and Muslims are brothers. Yeah. So so I think that could happen, and again, when I see a confluence, it's not that I believe in Mayan prophecy or I believe even in Catholic mysticism. Right. But
But we do know that demons know something about prophecy too.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And never forget that when Jesus went in, what the wild men of Gadara, come out of the cave screaming, "What have we to do with thee, Jesus? Art thou come hither to torment us before the time?"
Yes.
Yeah.
And that little phrase "before the time" is the Greek language that you used for talking about an epoch. What we might, what us dispensationalists might call a dispensation of time. They knew that time had not arrived. So demons know something. And perhaps it's their instinct, their intuition, their tea leaf reading or whatever, the things that they do since they're not God, right? But they can interpret the signs of the times, and they're seeing it, and maybe that's why the Mohammedan prophecies are coming to pass now. ISIS has a caliphate. They're moving towards the Mahdi, as you're talking about. The Pope seems to be in agreement that we're living in prophetic times. He told people, 2 weeks ago, get ready for the end of the world. This guy's a prophecy believer.
Yeah.
And interestingly, he's gone from being a believer in prophecy to doing something even more interesting. He's now become a prophet. He has started prophesying. He has started telling people to prepare for this, and he's prophesying this and that's going to happen. Now that is more interesting to me than just you believe in prophecy.
And that's very
right?
interesting because one of his close friends, a gentleman who was killed this past year in a motorcycle accident, Bishop Tony Palmer, served as a bridge between Pope Francis and the charismatic wing of evangelical Christianity. So there's he's got
Kenneth
a more
Copeland
right.
Yeah.
He's got a little more of a charismatic background or affinity for that type of Christianity than perhaps previous popes have had.
Right. Well, that's just a taste of what people are going to be seeing on SkyWatch television coming in 2016. But as a result of what seems to be a heightened sense of the times, we've decided that in 2016 we're also going to increase our outreach. We're going to go on to more television. We'd love for people to be in prayer with us. We're already right now talking to some of the biggest Christian television networks. I started to say in the United States, but internationally, about buying additional television time, and people can help us by making donations to SkyWatch TV to be able to get the budget, to be able to expand, because we do have a sense that what we do, we need to do now. Right. And we need to do it as effectively as we can. We also need to do it in ways that really resonate with this generation. I mean, if you watch SkyWatch TV, we're unlike anybody else. This is not your mom and dad's prophecy TV,
that's
right?
True.
No, that's true.
But it's because we want to be on the cutting edge. We want to use technology in good ways. Yeah, the Antichrist is going to misuse it. Well, we want to use it in good ways, right? To reach this generation and to talk about the questions that they're asking. This month on television started a whole new TV series called Childhood's End.
I'm glad you brought that up because I wanted to talk to you about that, because it's obvious that we are teaching children through the internet and through movies and video games. And this sci-fi production of Arthur C. Clarke's Childhood's End, he wrote that in the 50s. To wait this long to do this. And it takes place in midsummer 2016.
Right.
And the funny thing is, in the book, the main character, Ricky, Stormgren.
Stormgren, yeah.
He is actually the Secretary General of the UN. In the sci-fi series, he's a farmer from Missouri.
Right. With a talent for bringing peoples together.
Yes.
Yeah, and
but
communicating.
what we see at the very end of the first episode, I'm not going to give you a major spoiler. This is all over the internet, so, at the very end, you see the aliens who have invaded, the overlords, who are now taking charge of the children of Earth, the humans. They look just like Satan.
Right.
Yeah.
They are our classic depiction of the devil and his angels.
Cloven hoof, horns, bright red.
But they're the good guys, as it turns out.
But they're the good ones,
That's
right?
what they say,
They're
and they
creating
just
a
want to upgrade
utopia,
us.
right? And they're providing healing to all of our diseases. They stop war. Through their technology, men can no longer conduct war. They bring world peace.
And in fact, Clark wrote that they bring in the golden age.
The golden age. In fact, it mentions that twice in the first episode. I haven't seen the second episode, but as I understand, it also involves transhumanism and some of those other themes.
Right.
Well, so that's what we do at SkyWatch Television, is we take what the world is watching, what is entertaining the minds of this generation, and we put it into a conservative, it's not just a biblical worldview, it's an old-fashioned conservative biblical worldview, but we want to expand that. So going into 2016, we're bringing additional staff that will be coming here. We've already sent
Can
an
we
invitation.
name them?
Yes.
Are we announcing that yet?
Yeah, we can. Josh Peck.
Josh and Christina
Peck. Now, they will be coming here. Sometimes they'll be on the regular television program. Josh will be working with Joe Artis in packaging our television programs, documentary films, that sort of thing.
But he's got a real gift too, and we want to see some original content from him, because
There you go.
if people like Sci Friday, they'll like where Josh goes. In fact, we want to invite him and get him on Sci
I
Fridays.
know. I think the three of us, it's just gonna. Your head's gonna explode.
Yeah, his books Quantum Creation and Cherubim Chariots were just phenomenal.
And we're going to be publishing another book by him in 2016. We've just now got the manuscript. I think Sharon started reading through that.
reading it.
Yep.
And so if you want to know what's going on with CERN and the multiverse and the discoveries they have or haven't made, but how does this connect to creation, which is God's, right?
And his wife Christina is a real Proverbs 31 woman. She's got her own home-based business. She homeschools. I don't know if she's going to continue that or not. She's got a degree in business administration.
Right.
She's brilliant.
Yeah.
Right.
And she is going to be helping us out, and perhaps being on camera too, because we've got a women's show coming out.
Yeah.
That's another big, major thing that's coming in 2016 is SkyWatch Women, which will be hosted by Sharon Gilbert, and then other women are going to be joining you.
Oh, yeah.
And so tell us, what's the vision around that, so people get an idea about what we mean by that?
You know, when you and I, Anita, we were all talking about this about the time that you had invited us to come out, and I sent you an email and I said, we need a women's show. And that's sort of like The View, but from a Christian worldview. And you wrote back and you said, that's the very thing Nita and I have been talking about.
Right.
So it's a God thing. I think he's leading us into that, because women, especially women who want to study prophecy and are also concerned about the things that women have to deal with every day, taking care of the kids' homework, making sure the carpooling's done, making sure the laundry's done, have I done the cleaning? But I also want to educate myself, and I want to become a better me, and I want to serve the Lord, and I want to, share the gospel. How do I do all this?
Right.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about all that.
Yeah, and so we will be building a set that's going to be for SkyWatch Women, and we've got some ideas about what that set is going to look like, but it will have its own studio.
Yes.
Now, to get us started, sometime early in 2016, we'll actually have the women use this studio and shoot a program that'll play on national television, and we'll do that once a month as we're building the studio. But that'll
We're
start
going to paint the walls pink, though.
Are you?
Yeah. No, I'm not a big pink person.
But
actually.
yeah, we're really looking forward to that. Another major thing that's going to be coming early in 2016 is SkyWatch Magazine.
Yeah.
And for years, I've wanted to publish a magazine, and I want it to be kind of like the old Raiders News Update was always edgy, that finally became SkyWatch TV, which is much bigger, but it keeps that kind of that edge about it.
You even tried one way back called Anomalous.
Yeah, we only ever published 2. They were only digital, but we saw in those that people were very hungry, because I never even looked at the first one, how many times it was downloaded. The second one, we put it on a page that had a counter, of an invisible counter, and it had been up 6 or 8 weeks and had been downloaded 80-some thousand times. Woo! So we knew that people around the world were very interested in the kind of topic. We'll have leading experts from around the world, some who are very familiar to the SkyWatch audience that will be writing for that magazine, some brand new names, people they don't even realize are out there, but who are experts. We have an exorcist, essentially, that will be here early in the year, people like that that'll be writing for the magazine. And I can imagine in the magazine, it's always going to have a woman's point of view, it's always going to have the man's point of view, it's also going to have, like with Josh Peck, this original content that we want to create for the web. Right now we have our weekly broadcast. We usually have a web exclusive that's playing, and then we have the daily updates that you guys are already doing. In addition to that, I can imagine, you know, this TV show, what is it, like Into the Wormhole with, who's the actor?
Oh, Morgan Freeman.
Into the Wormhole with Morgan Freeman. But we're going to have our own version of that. Maybe this is Into the Multiverse with Josh Peck.
Yeah.
But it's going to be an exclusive program that'll be produced once a week, and it'll be on SkyWatch TV.
Write that down. I like that.
I like that.
Yeah.
We're also going to have All God's Creatures with Joe Artis. So this will have everything to do with what's happening with the animal kingdom, with our pets, things like that. All God's creatures, right? We have a responsibility, don't we?
Yes.
Yes,
we
we
were
do.
given that in the garden.
Right.
We do.
And to be good custodians of God's creation. Now, I won't go too far with this, but the public probably knows a little bit about it. I also am already talking to Chris and Shelley Putnam.
Ooh.
And I'm hoping that in 2016 it'll work out that they will join our staff here too. Chris and I are already working on another book. We'll probably keep doing that for a while.
Uh-huh.
We thought there was only going to be one, then there was two, then there was three, then there was four, now there's five. I don't know. But that seems to be a good chemistry there.
Yep.
Yeah.
But Chris wrote a book called Supernatural Worldview.
It is one of the most
Yeah.
important
Oh.
books in our reference
It
library.
is.
So imagine another weekly original content called Supernatural Worldview with Chris Putnam. So that's what we're hoping to do. We're hoping to build, essentially to become the Fox News, but of Christianity.
Yeah.
And of conservative Christianity, where we're covering all of the important topics that the world is looking at and thinking about. Financial issues, we'll have finance experts. So we're very excited. And these are not pipe dreams. I mean, it was just a year ago we were saying we're going to build a studio,
Yeah.
and look at all that we're doing today.
And we're sitting in it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, we also did just launch Defender Films. Inhuman was the first of others that are to come. I know you've already started
writing the
work
script
on our
now.
next big top secret project. Yeah. And but God's building a wonderful team here. I mean, I could not have imagined the kind of people that God is putting together at SkyWatch Television. We're really all a family. And, you know, people out there, they probably know, like, office politics, and what you see is not what you get behind the scene. Well, here it really is. It is what you get.
Just
Yeah.
like this all
It
the
is,
time. It
yeah.
is the coolest place to work.
It is.
No, we were very blessed to be a
Of course,
part of
you're
this.
Scrooge.
But we are really looking forward to 2016 as a adding more pieces to the team, and whatever the Lord puts in front of us, we just pray for the ability to stay awake 36 hours a day, because you don't want to miss anything. That's kind of how I feel about
Yeah,
things. I
that's
just don't
true.
want to miss anything by taking too much time for just to kick
You
back
were
and
up
relax.
at 2:30 this morning, not missing anything.
Yeah, well.
So yeah, that's that.
Well, and for our viewers that are very interested in Whispering Ponies Ranch, we are in the spring. We're going to actually start running program at Whispering Ponies Ranch. We're building through the winter if the weather will permit us to, but we basically have everything in place now where we can start programs. So we're bringing additional staff on that will only be working with
Oh,
Whispering
good. Now
Ponies
you
Ranch as
mentioned
well.
in the previous show about the campground that you're building. Is that for people who come to volunteer?
Yeah, the RV park right now is being built specifically for people that come to volunteer, that want to help. All of our staff, by the way, will have police background checks. Everybody that works there, because we will have kids that are brought in by groups, all have to have background checks and all that. But we've invited some of the staff already to come to work for us. The RV park is being built specifically for what we call MAPS volunteers. These are retired people. Typically, they have some trade, like retired builders and contractors, electricians, or women, or that worked in business management or whatever, and they bring something with them, and then we feed them 3 times a day, give them a place to put their RV with all full hookups for their RV system, and then they volunteer time to help us with whatever building. They do everything: building fences, running program. Whispering Ponies Ranch will have a low course, like outdoor school courses, zip lines. It'll have that kind of thing. We found out when we were doing excavating on that property over there, we broke through the ground and pulled up sea creatures, fossilized, that one of the guys that works for us, who used to teach outdoor school, said these are only, I mean, this is part of the ocean. at one time, this was undersea.
And
so,
we're kind of a high plateau here in the Ozarks. So that, it was
evidence of a great flood.
Right.
And so we'll be using that as part of our education process. There's ponds there for fishing. So we're pretty excited. Of course, therapy animals is a big part of what we do there. Yeah.
Yeah, it was the ponies that convinced my mom to come out here and move with us too. She saw the ponies and she said, "Oh, I have to."
Yeah.
So that was a good selling point. Well, 2016 is shaping up to be a really exciting year, and one more point.
One more thing I want to say thank you to everybody that has been supporting SkyWatch Television through 2015. We very much appreciate the donations that have come in. If people want to make another donation to get it as part of their tax write-off for 2015, of course, we would be happy.
Now's a good time to do it.
Now would be a good time to do that. But we want people to spend time with their family. Remember what Christmas is really all about. It's not all the commercialization, all that. They say He is the reason for the season, but He's actually, Jesus Christ is the reason for every season, right?
Amen.
Mm-hmm.
By Him were all things made that are made, and without Him was not anything made that is made. So He is the reason for the season. We want you to have a very wonderful end of 2015. Spend time with your family and give thanks to the Lord.
Amen. And we'll be back after the first of the year as we begin kicking off these new programs here on SkyWatch TV. Some fascinating guests coming up that you'll see very early in the new year. And looking forward, of course, to the big conference at Colorado Springs in July of 2016. So that also on the calendar for the year ahead. But in the meanwhile, we're going to take the rest of the year off. We've got a family that we want to spend time with. I still owe Tom a chapter for the forthcoming book I have to finish within the next week, so I'll be doing that. But we wish you a Merry, Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, many blessings from our Lord Jesus Christ and from our family here at SkyWatch TV to you. Thank you for watching. This is SkyWatch TV. The holidays are on us, and this Christmas, SkyWatch TV can help you give the gift of preparedness to the ones you love.
How better to show your love to your family than to buy something that will help them when their electricity goes out, when everything fails, and we all know that there's a possibility of that happening. This is the time to buy, because if you go to our store, you'll find the Buy This, Get That Free special. And trust me, the Buy This items, they're already discounted, so you're going to save money on that. And you get a wonderful item in addition, free.
That's right. Go to skywatchtvstore.com and look for the Christmas specials. Now, as a news junkie, I'm really excited about some of the crank radios. When times get tough and you need to know what's going on.
Are they just for cranks?
Well, it's perfect for me then, because you can, without batteries, be able to find out exactly what's going on. They're crank radios, including a two-way radio, so you can communicate with friends and family in an emergency.
I think that's incredible. We've got a hand crank radio at home that we use a lot. I hope it never happens, but more than likely the day is going to come. Even if it's just a power outage from a storm, you're going to need something to hear the weather on. We've got seed kits, emergency ration kits, Berkey water filters. I mean, it's all the things you wanted to get for prepping and you wanted to save money, or you want to give to your family members. Now's the time to buy.
And many of those seed kits are heirloom seeds, the kind of things that you don't typically get when you go to the store to buy seeds. Seeds that you can basically, when the plant ripens, you can save some of those seeds and plant them again next year.
You can. It's almost a buy once, have them forever sort of thing if you just save from year to year. And they're non-GMO.
Exactly. Plenty of other items in the store, including more information, books that tell you about how to prepare and plan for times that are troublesome. And certainly that would describe the age we're living in right now.
Buy this. Get that free. You gotta love it.
Yep. Give the gift of preparedness this holiday season. SkyWatch TV, skywatchtvstore.com. And again, Merry Christmas from SkyWatch TV.